Hey everyone, just got to see Predator Badlands in a theater yesterday. It is the latest installment in the long-standing Predator franchise, and guess what? I was blown away. I really like this movie. I enjoyed every minute of it. Can't wait to see more. Now, let's review this bad boy. Predator Badlands is directed by Dan Trachtenberg. Now, this is the same man who brought us Prey, another epic installment in the Predator franchise, and arguably the better Predator movie out there. Now, Dan has shown us time and again that he really understands the Predator lore. He really gets these creatures. He always manages to give us Predator movies that have great action, that have compelling characters, great storyline, and a great script. Now, if Dan Trachtenberg is going to be steering the ship going forward in this franchise, I believe it's in very good hands, and we're going to see many good things going forward. Now, the story follows a run predator who goes by the name of Deck. Now, he arrives on Natuja Prime and is involved in a fight scene with his brother, who goes by the name of Kwai. Now, despite them fighting, it is established earlier in the film that they have a very strong brotherly bond. However, his father is less than pleased. He feels that Deck is weak for a predator, he doesn't belong in the predator clan, and he cannot survive on his own. Now, Deck, in order to please his father and to redeem his name, has sworn that he's going to slay an unkillable predator known as Kalisk on the planet Jenna, which is where he's going to be heading later in the later part of the film. But however, his father is not convinced, and he orders his execution, not surprisingly. And he tells his brother Kwai to carry out the execution. However, his brother very impressed with the Deck, and he believes in him, and he believes that he deserves another fight. So he releases him instead of executing him and asks him to be courageous. However, his father is not happy with this, and guess what? He executes him. And when Deck witnesses this, he's broken. He's literally a very huge emotional moment for him. And this turns into a motivational factor in his journey. Now, Deck escapes in a pod, and goes towards Jenna, and this is where his detective arc begins. Now, when I observed the cinematography in this film, I couldn't help but think: did they take inspiration from other franchises, from other properties? For example, when they show the vast empty lands in the Literature Prime in the earlier part of the film, it reminded me a lot about Mad Max. Even in Mad Max, you see those wide landscapes with no one in sight, and also it reminded you of Star Wars and even Riddick franchise. And when Deck arrives at Jenna and enters the forest, where all the flora and fauna are literally adapted to kill you and put you down, it really reminded me of Skull Island from the King Kong franchise, or even Pandora from Avatar. Now, Deck is obviously not alone in this journey. Once he arrives on Jenna, he comes across a Valiant Yutani synthetic who goes by the name of Thea. Now, Thea is played by Elle Fanning, and she's missing two of her legs and makes a deal with Deck, saying that she wants to recover her two legs and wants to come along with the journey. Now, despite not having her full body, she's a very capable fighter, as she shows to Deck, and she's very smart. She knows the place very well. So she proves to be a good tool for Deck. Now, as they move along, they meet another denizen of Jenna, who affectionately is called Bud. Now, this Bud swears his allegiance to Deck as well as Thea, and they all three of them go along the journey. Now, at this point, I was wondering, was Thea really a necessary character in this film? I mean, yes, she humanizes the predator. In fact, I believe she is a basically instrument added by the filmmakers in order to add more layers to the Yatuja's personality. They wanted to show that the Deck can actually be more than just a predator. He can actually interact with other members of the species. He can have more of a personality. He has some humanity. But I feel it was a bit unnecessary. I think just Tessa, which is another Valiant Yutani synthetic played by Elle Fanning, would have been sufficient. She should have remained as the villain, and Thea should have been completely eliminated from this film, and just Deck should have been on this journey. I mean, I'm pretty sure he's capable of carrying this film on his own, and he's the main protagonist of this film. So I believe Thea was added just to get this buddy cop adventure thing going, and I feel that wasn't necessary. I mean, sure, she was entertaining, and the chemistry between Deck and Thea was pretty compelling, but I feel the Predator could have done this on his own. Now, the action scenes were mind-blowing. They were fantastic. The color palette was excellent. The camera work during these action scenes were pretty damn good. I could really make out all the action very well. I could follow it easily. And the CGI, although there are plenty of CGI in this film, blended seamlessly and made for a wonderful experience. And the another thing I really loved about this movie was the script. It was simple. It had a first act, the second act, and the final act. And it was well structured. It was linear. It had no unnecessary world building. There was no unnecessary exposition or subplots that detracted from the main characters and their motivations. So the script was very easily relatable and was great. Now, there is another thing I like to put out there. Now, Predator Badlands is a very, very different Predator film. It is unlike any of the other installments that has come before it, and I'm going to highlight that exactly. And hopefully, this will help you frame your expectations accordingly before going to see this in a theater if you already haven't seen it till now. So here goes. Firstly, this does not take place on Earth. It is nowhere near Earth. It takes place on Yatuja Prime initially, and then takes place on planet Jenna. These are very alien planets, has nothing to do with Earth, and there's no references to any of the previous installments whatsoever. Secondly, there is no compelling human characters. That's right. There's no iconic human characters in this film. Now we are used to this typical predator trope, the predator formula, where a couple of very capable human characters comes into a jungle, and the predator is a hunter. He's basically going to hunt each and every one of them, and finally there's one character that gets the best of him and outsmarts him and kills him. Now that does not exist in this film. I feel Predator Badlands can be truly appreciated if you appreciate the Predator lore as a whole in its entirety. If you have seen the previous Predator films just for the sake of the human characters, you're not going to enjoy this film because there are no human characters in this film. The only humans that I could spot was in the Vele Yutani facility where they're playing henchmen. No offense to obviously those actors who have portrayed them well, but they are henchmen and they are following Vele Yutani Corporation's orders, and they don't have no real significance in this film. And another big significant difference in this film is the Predator is not a hunter. That's right, you heard me. He's the underdog, he's a survivor, and he's a protagonist. He's the one who carries this film. There's never been a film in this franchise where the Predator is the main focus. Everything is told from his perspective, his journey. Now, that is something extremely unique and something you may have to get used to. And another very good change that they made to the Predator lore is they finally gave the Predator a language, a dialect. In the previous movies, I was highly dissatisfied with one aspect of the Predator, and that is he's a prawn. He's like a shrimp. There's only pops and clicks. There's no real language. There's no real language to be heard from him, and he can only imitate the human language and say certain dialogues back to them at certain situations. He's basically like a parrot. However, in this, he's actually an intelligent being. They have their own language. They actually communicate, and this is what I expected from the advanced beings like predators. I mean, they can travel across galaxies. Can they have a complex language? Of course, they can. So this is one excellent addition to the lore, and I really hope this carries forward. And one more thing, Predator is not jacked up on weapons. No, he's not having that traditional pulse cannon. He's not having that helmet which gives him all the insight. He's not having all the weapons, the medical toolkit to revive him. No, he's basically stripped bare in this film. He has a basic armor used to cover his body, and he has a rudimentary gauntlet and his sword. That's all there is to it. He has a helmet in the earlier part of the film, but that is discarded pretty quickly, and he does not receive any cloaking device until very late in the film. So the Predator is basically, like I said, a survivor. He uses organic weaponry, and that is a very creative thing. So basically, he has to be more creative and more resourceful in this, as he's not granted any of the weapons that we are traditionally come to used to with a character like Predator. Now for the exciting prospect. Is Alien vs. Predator 3 possible? Is it on the horizon? It is certainly possible. I mean, it is Hollywood. Anything is possible. However, there was no Easter eggs in this as far as I could spot. There was no hint of xenomorphs. There was no hint of the eggs or no hint of any face hugger. Nothing. However, it is very possible that it can happen. Third time's the charm, probably. Alien vs. Predator 1 is still a good installment. I really liked it. Paul W.S. Anderson has done a good job in that. The second one, we don't talk about that. I really dislike the film. I really dislike every aspect of the film. I like to pretend it doesn't exist. So maybe third time's the charm. Maybe we'll get a very good AVP 3. And of course, and it is established in this film that Vele Corporation has recognized the predator as a species, and they probably see them as a threat and want to make them a property. So who knows? They might weaponize the xenomorphs probably, and they might even weaponize the new creatures other than the xenomorphs that was introduced in the Alien Earth series and studied after the predators, and there'll be one epic battle. I see a very good movie right there. So fingers crossed, guys. Let's hope there's a AVP 3 in the horizon. Now the movie finally ends with Deck getting the upper hand. He defeats Tessa and he carries a skull as a trophy, which is typical to predator culture. Now he goes back to Etuja Prime and shows the trophy to his father and tells him that he's worthy of being in the predator clan. However, he's not done yet. Remember, he killed his brother, who had a very strong bond with him. So now it's not just a redemption arc; it's a revenge spree for him. He traps his father just in the same exact way as he did his brother, and the more mature and older Bud, who is part of the team, bites his head off. That's where the movie concludes, and he finally gets his awesome cloaking device. I mean, that's so helpful for the predator, if you ask me. Now he must face his mother. Now his father was displeased with him. He wasn't a real father. Now, we are not sure how his mother will receive him and what he has to face with her. I guess only time will tell. We'll only see that in the next installment. So guys, what do you think of the film? Did you check it out in the theaters? Do let me know in the comments below. And I would highly recommend you check this out in 3D because the visual representation of this film lends itself perfectly to the 3D medium, and it looks really great. The 3D is done justice, and the premium price, I feel, is worth it. Now, finally, this movie is rated PG-13. I'm not really sure why, because there's a lot of violence, there's a lot of gore and bloodshed. However, I guess as per Hollywood logic, R rating means the blood has to be red in color. It can be purple, it can be green, it can be anything but red. So it is PG-13 rated. And I'm very glad they made this movie different. I mean, come on, guys, don't you think it's time in Hollywood that we have something different? We have remakes, we have sequels, we have reboots and requels, but a different concept that works well within the established franchise. Now that's gold right there. I really hope they give us more like this in the future. And of course, do subscribe to my channel. It means a lot to me as a growing YouTuber. And let's embrace cinema together. I will see you soon.